Hello.
Good evening, ladies.
Hello. Welcome to our week 2 of Unconditional Beauty School.
And just so you know, we're actually in live time this week. So it'll be a fun little journey. Hopefully all of our technology will be on our side tonight.
And if for some reason, actually we're out of Mercury retrograde now, which tends to make things really wonky. If for some reason when we go back and forth between our video and our slideshow, things get hung up, it should fix itself when we go back and forth again. And that's why we post these presentations online so that you can have access to them. So welcome.
Also, you can just close your eyes and listen to what we have to say, because then it'll be perfectly streamless.
Faces can be distracting anyway. And we may be referring to notes and looking down a little bit. And here's also the opportunity for you to participate. So you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, loud word.
Is that the right side?
Yeah. That we'll be posting some questions or prompting you with some opportunities to chime in. So if you are in fact joining us live, we encourage you to engage and participate, because it's really helpful to exchange with one another. We have women from all over the country with us. So thanks you East Coasters for making it late at night, and we hope to make this worthwhile, and we have a lot to cover.
Yes, we sure do.
So hope you have your water and maybe a journal or a notebook to write in, because there's a lot that we want to cover with you tonight. And we're just going to give you the little caveat that there's so much to cover in this topic that we can't possibly go into the depth that we want to in all ways. So, and we don't want to overwhelm you with information either. So we are going to let you know that we're going to skim the surface of what could be this webinar alone could be 3 of them.
Oh, easily.
If we went into deep depth here. So let Facebook be a place where you can share your thoughts and your questions. Let it be a place to exchange with us. And if there are places that we can give you more guidance, or we can direct you to some place where you can get further support, use that as a place to
ask for more help.
Ask for more help.
Yeah,
because there's a lot here, and it may bring up a lot. So, okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's dive in.
So before we go into this week's content, we wanted to make sure that you guys were tuning into the meditation that we posted last week. We can't underscore enough about how important it is to use these tools in the weeks in between. And the more that you put into it, the more that you'll get out of it. So after tonight, there'll be another one posted, probably tomorrow morning. Listen to it. And this one you're going to want to listen to multiple times, because new things may come through. So want to just make sure that you're doing your homework, ladies, your integrated practices, I should say. And tell them a little about this.
Oh, look at that. This is our sample of our circle scarf, and on here are some of the Cliff's notes and reminders and mantras, and it's super fun and wearable, so I thought I'd just give you a little
taster,
sneak peek.
And it's coming your way in a few short weeks.
It's actually going to be even better than this. This is just the first prototype.
So be on the lookout. It's coming your way. We wanted to have a tangible, wearable version of this so that you could feel more embodied, and not just on a piece of paper that you might refer to, or a file you might click on. This gets to be some wearable reminders. So, okay, we are going to get started into this week's content. And so we're going to flip to a
Our PowerPoint?
Our PowerPoint.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. All right, here we go. So this week we're going to be covering the truth about what you're really seeing in the mirror. Yeah.
This can be a fun one.
Yeah, there's a lot here.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a little overview of what we'll be covering this week, which is what are you feeding your mind? Let me back up a little bit and say that the point of this week's call is to look at all of the things that you're inputting into your body, into your mind, and look at that with a little bit closer lens so that you can be educated and informed about the impact that these various nutrients have on the way that you look and feel, and to be more thoughtful and discerning about what you're actually taking in. So what you're feeding your mind is a big part of this. And we'll move into the science of stress and why it's sabotaging your beauty efforts. There's a lot to say about this. And then finally, why mindset matters and to how to more effectively navigate your intrusive thoughts.
All right, some tools.
Yes, practical tools here. All right, here we go. So here's a question for you. What are you feeding your mind? What kinds of material are you consuming? Take a minute to reflect on this. What kinds of media input, like magazines, you know, when you're sitting there and getting a pedicure and pick up
Us Weekly.
It's kind of like junk food. What are you perusing on the internet? What kind of books and TV are you engaging in? What kind of imagery and messages are you allowing to embed in your psyche? Take a moment to reflect on this. And when you consume such things, do you feel expanded? Are you inspired? Is there a yes inside of you? Or are you collapsed in comparison? Are you inspired or are you depressed?
Perhaps maybe ask, is this a guilty pleasure or is this actually uplifting?
Your body will tell you right away. Do you find yourself constantly trying to fix yourself with self-help and development material? I know I went through a phase when that's all I did. I never engaged in fiction books or anything to give me a break. It was constantly trying to get into every nook and cranny. I don't think that's very helpful either. Are you outsourcing your personal wisdom, an expert as the only being living in your skin? So whether it's diet books or how to, your money blueprint, and are you constantly looking outside of yourself and someone who doesn't really know who you are to give you some cookie cutter idea of how to live your life? So just sit with that for a second. Maybe you want to write a few things down. All right. That's not what I wanted to do. All right, so it may be time to put yourself on a media diet and shut down the external input in an effort to reconnect to your innate source of wisdom and insight. So when I say try a 3-month break, go on a media diet, what does that really mean? It doesn't mean that you can't go on any social media. It doesn't mean that you have to avoid your computer. It means that you try eliminating those inputs that leave you collapsed, those ones that create a sense of comparison and less than inside of you. It's that mindless flipping through Facebook when we have a spare moment and are bored. I mean, really, how often? I'm totally guilty of that. But it's been only recently, and it doesn't make me feel any better, truly.
Sometimes I make a little joke of it, but I kind of think of it as roadkill. You don't really want to look at it, but you look at it and it makes you feel kind of gross. And so I would invite you to consider, think about shows like Jerry Springer, or just looking at articles that feel like gossip. Those are the types of things that we're recommending that you might want to take a diet from.
And also maybe take a diet, to take that even a step further, from a myriad of self-help books that you may be part way through. And you may be thinking, well, I'm doing this program, and that's the whole point. Devote yourself to this program, because what we're really encouraging you to do is go inward and instead substitute it with journaling and make time for your personal practices. Really make the space that's required to put these things into your life in an organic and integrated way. Okay. All right. Number 2 here, the science behind stress and why it's sabotaging your beauty efforts. So we're going to talk a lot about cortisol. And cortisol is the body's response to stress. And our bodies are really designed to deal with stress on a short-term basis, an acute basis. There's an acute threat that we need to quickly respond to. It's adaptive and it's short-term. The problem is that when it becomes chronic, it starts to create thought patterns, emotional patterns, and physical patterns that have a major impact on the way that we look and feel.
So I'm going to share a little bit with you about how cortisol works and what it actually is. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And originally, when we were cave women and cavemen back in the Paleolithic days, when we were under threat for our lives, like a saber-toothed tiger was coming after us, cortisol would release into our bloodstream, and that way we could either fight the tiger or run away from the tiger. So you might hear cortisol described as the fight or flight hormone. So what's actually happening is muscle and fat tissue become blood sugar or glucose, and they flood the bloodstream for fast and easy energy, literally, so you can run for your life. In most cases, in our modern day lives, we don't actually end up running for our lives, and we don't end up using all of that blood sugar. So in response to that, then your body produces another hormone called insulin. And insulin regulates your blood sugar by sending the unused sugar or glucose back into the fat stores, which can be in your belly, in your hips, and your butt, depending on your body type. Cortisol is important to understand because it actually has a healthy purpose in your body as well. It's designed to have a peak and a valley. So a healthy cortisol rise and fall would look like cortisol rises in the morning as the sun is coming up, and that's actually what wakes you up from your slumber. And as throughout the day, it starts to slowly dip until the evening, and that way you can relax back into sleep. When cortisol production cycle gets out of whack, it can actually end up affecting your sleep cycle, and you wake up feeling sluggish because your cortisol is low in the morning, and you feel wired at bedtime. Also interrupt your sleep, usually between the hours of 1 and 4 a.m. So it can create symptoms like weight loss resistance and cravings, which none of us like to have to deal with. Cortisol also interrupts your sex hormone production and digestion. So symptoms like PMS, low libido, and ill digestion can become a serious problem with cortisol. And cortisol likes to hang out with adrenaline, which also stimulates your appetite, especially for quick energy substances like simple carbs and sugars. So it's no joke. It really actually creates some strong cravings.
So here's a slide. Lean in, because we're going to cover from top to bottom how this can show up in your body. So that little yellow pad is exactly what Melody is talking about and how it can show up as weight gain in your body. So starting from the top, it can create headaches and dizziness, symptoms of ADHD, anxiety, irritability, anger, and panic disorders. And I would add to that memory problems, concentration problems, focus problems. So fuzzy-headedness, teeth grinding, and tension in the jaw. Well, as I'm learning about pregnancy more and more, I also know that the tension you carry in your jaw is related to tension in your pelvic floor. So when your jaw is tight, so are your hips. So there's a direct correlation between the two. So don't do things like chew gum. It's not going to help you. Actually, we need to work out our jaw a lot more. My mom actually had so much of this that she disintegrated her jaw joint. She totally wore down her jaw and had to have it wired shut in order for it to regenerate. It was pretty intense. Increased heart rate, strokes, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, types 1 and 2, and arrhythmias. So it basically just puts a major amount of stress on your ticker, because essentially blood is shunted from your extremities and into protecting your major vital organs. You could live without your finger, but you can't live without your heart. So it puts distress on your body because now it's pumping blood in order to keep you literally alive in this really heightened state of distress. Digestive disorders, upset stomach, abdominal pain, and irritable bowel syndrome. So this goes along with the previous point. When we are in acute distress, we shut down non-vital functioning. So it doesn't really matter if we process our lunch, because we may be lunch. So what happens is that we go through feelings of relaxation and tension, and that's really what IBS is. And in that, you're not absorbing your nutrition properly either. So it shuts down our absorption of key nutrients. Like we mentioned, weight gain and obesity. Decreased sex drive. Again, if you're being chased by a tiger, you're not looking to get it on. So you're really concerned with the immediate now and not looking at the hot leader of the pack across the way. And moving downwards here, muscle tension, fibromyalgia, complex regional pain syndrome. This kind of accounts for those phantom-like diseases and disorders that many more women, actually, I find in my clinical practice have more than men, like these chronic fatigue syndromes and things like that that don't seem to have a clear etiology. And of course, on the most severe side of things, alcoholism, suicide, drug addiction, tobacco addiction, and other harmful behaviors. So
I would add in food compulsive eating.
Yeah, absolutely.
To kind of soothe your state.
So looking at this, these are the manifestations of stress on the body. And to make it easier on you, I've put this into a slide of it in itself. One thing that I didn't mention is hormonal fluctuations and irregular menses. It is not uncommon to have very irregular cycles, irregular bleeding in those cycles, and then severe mood swings as well. We'll talk a little bit later about PMS. All of this results in things like ashy skin, bags under the eyes, hair loss, because once again, if you're being threatened, if your life is threatened, your luxurious hair and the growth of your nails isn't so important. What's important is that you run away. And what's important is that your vital organs are protected. So it's no wonder that over time that we experience a decrease in what we would consider our most beautiful traits, our lush skin, our bright eyes, that natural radiance that exudes itself when we are more relaxed. Okay, so that was a lot to cover. And we are quickly on to our number 3, which is thought broadcasting and intrusive negative talk. Why mindset matters and its effect on your physiology. So here's where you get to participate. Chime in right now. What kinds of hasty, emotion-driven choices have you made lately? Go ahead and type that in. What kinds of hasty, emotion-driven choices have you made lately? Chances are we all make them, without a doubt. Can you think of one that you've done lately?
I've grabbed an ice cream sandwich out of the fridge instead of making myself a healthy salad, because I was just looking for a little bit of pleasure and could have made some better choices, but could have been worse.
I can think of calling someone to process something like that I could have done on my own. Like engaging somebody in my story and in something that really wasn't their business, because I just kind of needed support, which of and in itself isn't a bad thing either. However, I don't know that that person needed to hear that. I could have just
taken some time with it.
Taken some time on my own. So, here we go. Let's talk about for a moment, we're going to talk about 4 steps to identifying these negative thought patterns and their effect on you. So once again, here's a question to ask yourself. What does a trigger feel like in your body? Might be a tense stomach, an overactive mind, sluggish energy. Let's hear from you. What does a trigger feel like in your body? So, give you a hint. It doesn't feel good, usually. something that's unpleasurable and uncomfortable. You know what that is for you?
Oh, yeah. I feel my face get hot and my throat feels pinched off and kind of feels contracted in my stomach. And if I'm really upset, I feel contracted in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like a bowling balls in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it feels all bound up. It definitely hits my throat in a way where like something wants to come out, but I don't trust that what would come out would be helpful. Like there's this immediate hot, irrational response. Not comfy at all. So the second step in this is to identify your triggers when they happen. Okay, so when do these things normally happen for you? You know, and in relationship to your body, does it happen when you eat, when you're dressing yourself, comparing yourself to others? Just take a moment to reflect on this. And the hint here again is that your body feels tense. You don't feel like yourself. You may want to indulge in not so great behavior. It's when it becomes tempting. So when does this typically happen for you? Just identify that for a moment. What is the trigger, and then when does it happen? All right. So step 3 here is identifying what's actually going on. So your body is saying, all right, girl, something's happening. Something just happened in your world. Your body is responding in a way that is giving you a valuable clue. And if you're receiving that clue, then the next step is identify what's actually going on. Could it be something like low blood sugar, exhaustion, dehydration? Could it be nutritional deficiencies? Or is it that there are imbalanced or changing hormones happening? Or could it be that there's rogue emotions and negative beliefs at play? So we're going to go into some suggestions for each of these. Okay. So once again, just a little piece around, we're not intending to diagnose you. If you have further questions, please bring it up in our Facebook group, and we may guide you to talk to a healthcare practitioner, to talk to a specialist. If it's mental health or relationship oriented, I'm one of those specialists. Melodia's got a lot of background in nutrition as well, but again, these are meant to kind of like peek little, like, oh, that could be me. And each of these are their own study. Each of these could be something for you to explore more deeply. We're just going to cover some basics around it. So just take note of if it feels resonant with you.
So I just want to start off by saying that this is going to be a lot of information. And the intention of sharing all of this with you is to help you make empowering, informed choices and help you identify what you're actually feeling. Although it might not feel like it at times, your body isn't trying to betray you. It's actually trying to inform you. So let's get acquainted with some basic self-care concepts that can help you attune to what might actually be going on. And I like to call that emotional intelligence. It's kind of like, oh, this is what's going on for me. And then all of a sudden it kind of empowers you to have control over it and not feel like it's owning you. Let's talk about a couple examples. I'm sure you can relate to the feeling of having a short fuse, and maybe you start feeling angry, and then you realize you haven't eaten for a few hours. You eat, and then you realize, oh, I'm not actually an angry person. I like to call that hangry. I'm sure you've heard that before.
It could be that your blood sugar level is low.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another example is you find yourself crying at AT&T commercials. Everything seems irritating, and all you want to eat is chocolate, and surprise, your period starts. And then you realize, oh, I'm not actually crazy. So it's moments like that where some awareness of what's going on by looking at symptoms can be very reassuring and kind of put things into a healthier perspective for you, make you feel like you're the boss. So the first one I want to talk about is blood sugar. This one's so very important because it actually affects your hormonal health as well. And I would like to make a suggestion of getting into the habit of planning meals, packing your lunch. I personally carry a mini cooler with me on road trips so that I can keep cold, yummy snacks available. Even simple things like keeping packages of almonds. Trader Joe's has these pre-packaged almonds. They're a handful. They're a perfect little snack.
I just housed it.
Yeah, I gave Jessica 7, and she enjoyed it. Also, to make food choices that give you well-balanced nutrition, and choose things that aren't super high in sugar and carbs, because those are things that also cause dramatic spikes in your blood sugar. Processed foods are often devoid of nutrients and minerals that you need that can also, when you don't have a balanced nutrition, those can show up as side effects that look like anxiety, depression, restlessness, and exhaustion. Mm-hmm. And all of those things can confuse emotions that might be going on beneath the surface of all of that. So let's clear out the basics so that you can really get to the heart of what's going on. Mm-hmm. Jess, you want to talk a little bit about exhaustion?
So could it be that what you're really experiencing in that moment is exhaustion? We are living in a time when we have artificial means to keep us up and awake at all hours. And especially if you're using your computer late, if you're doing things that charge you up, having charged conversations late at night, doing things like your finances and things that may bring up your emotions late at night, if you have a really erratic sleep schedule. So consider establishing a more regular sleep cycle. Shut down your last 2 hours before you go to sleep. Try to establish a bedtime ritual, something that clues your body that it's time to settle in, it's time to go inward. So you're not creating that cortisol boost artificially at the end of the day when it's naturally wanting to wane down in order to put you to sleep. So if this is an issue for you, talk to me, because I know a lot about sleep hygiene. I've studied this a lot, and there are some easy tweaks that you can make to rectify this. But you may just need either more sleep or more regular sleep. Try going to bed plus or minus 30 minutes, not 2 hours, not a 2-hour swing. And you may find that some of that crashing of emotions and lability starts to subside.
Another really obvious piece to that, to me anyways, is caffeine consumption. And I've definitely made poor caffeine choices a little too late in the afternoon. And that has absolutely left me feeling restless and exhausted at night. So something to be mindful of. On that note, caffeine, coffee in particular, can lead to dehydration. And dehydration easily masks itself as hunger pains. So if you're feeling hungry and you feel like, well, I just ate an hour ago, just try drinking some water first and consider adding some electrolytes to that. Another piece is nutritional deficiencies. And as I said before, they can often show up as symptoms that feel like nervousness, anxiety, and depression, and just low energy. So some basics that sometimes we forget about, and we want to remind ourselves to choose whole foods that have these minerals and vitamins, to include them into your diet on a daily basis, or at least on a weekly basis. Things like minerals like potassium and magnesium, super important for that help with nervousness, and can easily be lost when you're sweating a lot in hot yoga or dance or at the gym.
Or just living in Southern California and sweating a
lot. Iron deficiency definitely can lead to you feeling exhausted, especially around that time of the month. So sea vegetables are a great way to get those. Your B vitamins, super important. You can find most of them in nutritional yeast. So just adding a spoonful of that to your salad or to your smoothie or dressings.
Popcorn.
Yes, to your popcorn. Omegas can be found in fish oil, flax seeds, chia seeds. Calcium, super important. D vitamins, very important for mood. So if you're living in a state that doesn't get a whole lot of sun, you might want to consider finding some light bulbs that actually create a full spectrum light can help. And also vitamin D supplementation. So I can go into more of this later and give some food suggestions on our Facebook page. But, you know, it's funny. I think a lot about my food on a daily basis. And here we're going to pop in and talk to you face to face. Hold, please. Hi.
Hi.
I spend a lot of time regulating and taking note of my diet. I actually keep a food journal. And I find that to be very insightful, especially when it comes to carbs and protein balances and how many sugars I'm having a day. But I decided to take a closer look and consider all of those minerals and vitamins that I might be missing or getting. So just I think it's an important place to just kind of make some awareness around that. You know, those are things that you really want to add to your lifestyle when you're deciding on what kind of foods you want to eat.
Absolutely. So now we're going to get into imbalanced hormones. Could what you're experiencing be imbalance in hormones? So I came across this author named Alicia Vitti, and I'll pop the slide up in a moment. And I'm sorry, it seems like the first slide got frozen, so I apologize. And it's a good reminder to pop back and forth so that it defreezes. So Alicia wrote a book called The Woman Code, and it was really revelatory to me because it gave me information that I never got around being a woman and how to operate this machinery called a woman's body, which is very different than a man's body, given that we are the creators and holders of life and that we are attuned to the natural cycles. The woman's body is the first keeper of time, because when synced up with the moon, we are on 28-day cycles, just like that's why they call it your moon time. I wasn't told these intricacies of how to sync my life up with creation and how if I looked in nature, I would be able to find answers about my body and how to align with each week of my cycle in relation to a cycle of creation. So this was incredibly revelatory to me. And though I had heard pieces of this over time, this book puts it into a very succinct perspective. So I'm going to pop over.
I have to say that when Jessica introduced me, you can go ahead and pop over, okay. I'll just talk. When Jessica introduced me to this book, it was a game changer. Like, I literally thought, why don't they give this to teenagers and sex education? Like, it's so insightful. And it leads to, is it Alicia?
Mm-hmm.
Alicia's concept of flow living, which is so simple, living in the flow of your body and its natural rhythms and cycles. And when you attune to that and listen to that and go with your flow, then you're really setting yourself up for success, rather than creating a schedule that's very much like not in tune with your natural body's energetic rhythms.
So Alicia really talks a lot about how some key factors like stress and the impact on your adrenals, toxic overload, poor nutrition, societal factors, and then those internal factors that we've talked about interfere with women being more supported to be in a more feminine, receptive, attuned, and aligned place. So in return, we endure things like a decrease in libido, PMS, irregular menses, and an overall decrease in overall vitality and radiance. So this isn't normal, ladies. PMS is not normal. And though both society and many women I know, like, oh, I'm PMSing. Like, how often do you hear that stated either out of someone else's mouth or your own? That's not normal. And her book goes into great detail about educating us about the actual hormone cycle and its implications on diet, exercise, lifestyle, and sex. So she goes through the 4 phases of our cycle: the follicular phase, the follicular phase, ovulation, the luteal, and menstruation phase, and the implications of diet, exercise, lifestyle, and sex. And if we were really syncing up with creation, that we would be changing our lifestyle habits accordingly. So she uses this information to create a protocol to help integrate these changes into our lifestyles along the lines of cutting down on stress, emotionally, mentally, environmentally, in our relationships, nurturing the adrenals. She's really big on not having too much caffeine and stimulants, and balancing the blood sugar through eating at regular intervals. So in being pregnant right now, I'm learning this in a big, big way, that I need protein. I can't eat as much because my stomach is so compacted because there's, I guess, an eggplant-sized being in me at the moment, but I need to eat at regular intervals, so about every 2 to 3 hours. And interestingly, that's part of her protocol: eat about every 3 hours, or else the blood sugar level starts to crash. She talks about supporting the process of elimination of excess hormones. So every day we're producing hormones. We're producing estrogen. We're producing progesterone. And we need to support them moving out of we don't need all of them. We need them. The excess of them actually wreaks a lot of havoc. So things like scissors, eating a lot of cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli. Kale, cauliflower, the scrubby stuff, dark veggies, and hydration helps your liver with the process of elimination. And she goes into a lot of detail about our hormonal cues, things like our metabolism, elimination, and cycle symptoms. So things like breakouts, like how that's a sign that your colon and your elimination systems are backed up, that the bags under your eyes are associated with your adrenals and your kidneys, and how to read this better so that you know which area you may be blocked in and need to focus more energy on. So I felt like that was really revelatory too. Like, I was prone for many years to breakouts. And when I put her protocol in place, they almost all went away. I mean, I rarely have them anymore. And finally, the most revelatory thing, and I'm going to get out of here again to see you. Okay. So the most revelatory aspect of this was her concept of cycle syncing. And I don't know about you, but I was told, or it was implied, that having your cycle was something to just deal with. Like, you don't stop for it, you don't acknowledge it, you just, okay, I'm going to be gross. You just shove something up yourself and keep going. It's not, it's more of an inconvenience than it is something to celebrate. And now that I've lived in Oregon, which is much more connected to the earth, and it was so strange to me to have women say, "Oh, enjoy your moon." Happy moon time. Like, what? What do you mean happy moon time? Like, this, and their culture, or at least the one that I was connected to there, was very much in celebration of this time of inward reflection, and where the veils are very thin and our intuition is very high. And in tribal times, of course, you probably heard of the red tent, and that women would, of course, sync up their cycles together and go in and have this restorative time to dream and to connect in a way that led to insights and visions about what was happening next. So the men would take care of the children for those days, and therefore had an exchange of roles that then gave greater appreciation for all of what the women were holding. Because if you don't walk in someone's shoes, you can't know. And then the women would come out and have these revelations to share with the tribe, like, we need to go west now because there's danger coming. So there was a real honoring of the feminine capacity to tune into the invisible. And instead of slowing us down, if we were to sync up with these natural cycles throughout the course of the month, that we could be even more productive than we typically, or we think, how do I say this? We would be even more productive than we think, because the excuse usually is, if I slow down, if I take time, then I'm going to be missing something. I'm going to be, I need to keep going, right? There's this pressure to produce. And her example, and I can attest to this as well when I've put this in practice, is that when I sync up with my natural rise of energy, then I'm outward facing, I'm on fire. I'm sure you notice this, like, that's the time to schedule your social meetings and your sales calls. And if you're in business in some way, it's like you're in ovulation, you're your most juicy. Contrast to that, to when you're menstruating, that's the time to be more inward and to prepare yourself for the weeks ahead. So you're letting go and you're reflecting and you're looking at what's coming. So you're closing up your month. So if we were to really sync up with these natural cycles, we would be even more vital, even more productive than we are if we just pushed on through. You
Well
find
said.
that too?
Yeah, you gave me chills. I love your explanation.
I really encourage you ladies to get this book, and we can go into it in some more detail, but suffice it to say, we're big fans.
Book club.
Yeah. All right. So So I'm just going to ask a question again. Can everyone see us? Can you, if you're joining us, just type in now. Make sure that you can see us. If you're still with us, and we are going to switch again to our PowerPoint. Okay, here we go. So we were talking about what could these things mean? Could it be low blood sugar? Could it be exhaustion? Could it be sleep? It could be dehydration. But could it also be these intrusive things that are happening to you to derail your beauty efforts? Could it be indicative of rogue emotions and negative beliefs? So here we go, ladies. This is really, really the crux of it all. If you've done all of that, if you're well fed, well slept, if you're syncing up with your cycle, and if after all of that you still feel like there's some rogue emotional play happening here, I want you to, I'm gonna go back here because I want to look at you. Okay, here's me looking straight at you. I want you to take a really big, deep breath right now. Slow and complete. And maybe even conjure up the last time when something really strong, maybe even earlier today, happened for you. Maybe with your partner, maybe with your business, whatever that is, just bring that up right now. And I want you to feel it all the way through. You can't skim over this. You can't distract yourself through it. You have to feel it. Let it come up with the intention of letting it go. Ground your feet flat on the floor. Big Buddha belly breath, diaphragmatic breathing. So you're going to breathe so that your belly moves more and your chest moves less. So it should look like this. And with my belly, you're going to be able to see it. Okay, here we go. Should look like this. See my bottom hand? My bottom hand is moving, not my top hand. So my top hand isn't moving at all. Deep inhale. And complete exhale. Get that last 30% out of your lungs. You got to feel it all the way through. So if emotions are coming up, it's like a fur ball that is traveling. If any of you seen, or if you have a cat who's coughed up a fur ball, it's quite a sight. It's pretty painful to watch, actually.
Full body.
It's a there's a lot that can, poor things, but it comes all the way up here, and then it's meant to be let go of. You don't want a big furry mess in your belly. So when this emotion happens, you don't have to purge it to your partner or in a way that says or does something that you can regret. It's breathing with the intention of letting the fur ball out. And it's time to be responsible about this so that you don't wind up pushing it down, because all of this effort, you've seen a cat convulse around this. All of this effort brought it all the way up here. You may as well cough it out. Sometimes we used to give butter to our cats so that it would coat their throat and go back down.
But in retrospect, I should have just supported them to cough it out, because then it would be really gone. So things are happening in your life to conspire to bring all of this to the surface. So take advantage of it by breathing it all the way out. And you can do things like we just talked about. Drink lots of water. Move your body. You know, I don't know about you, but sometimes I just need to like shake things off. Go for a brisk walk. Scream into a pillow. Whatever you need to do to take responsibility for coughing it all the way out. So I just want to underscore how important that process is, and that there's no shortcut to it. And the more that you can give yourself permission to do this, the more that your life isn't going to be run by your fur balls. I have to make light of this because it's serious stuff, but we don't have to take ourselves too seriously. Okay? All right. Moving on.
Bravo. Beyond the fur balls. Okay.
Oh, I just want to breathe that one out.
So the key here is to stay neutral. Don't judge yourself. Things come up, don't judge it. Stay neutral. And don't indulge in the temptation to self-deprecate. This is what leads to unconscious behaviors like emotional eating, projections toward your loved ones, things like overspending, and other distractions that don't truly get at the deeper need to release and let go. So you save a lot of money and a lot of effort and maybe a lot of pounds that you may feel gross about by letting the fur ball up instead of putting more food down. Trust me, it works. So in conclusion of that piece, well, almost, I have a funny little thing next. Your thoughts lead to your emotions, which contribute to behavior, which reinforce your beliefs. And then it goes all the way back around to your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, beliefs. So the more that you indulge in this cycle, the more that you're creating stories about yourself that are untrue. So between the exercises that we've talked about, monitoring what you're putting in, processing the emotions that you're feeling in a more responsible way, taking intelligent action as to interrupt those patterns so that new beliefs can form. A new way of relating to yourself can happen so that you're not just cycling and reinforcing these deceptive ideas about yourself that over time you start to actually believe. You actually start to believe these things. So I created a little cartoon.
You're such an artist.
Oh yes, please don't laugh at me. But okay, so if the thoughts that you're having, I'm a fat ass, no one's gonna love me, I wish I could fit into those skinny jeans, I hate my thighs. Okay, we tell ourselves these things, and probably much, much worse. Let's get honest with ourselves. You really got honest with yourself. These are the things that are broadcasting in the movie of your life. So then we project them onto the movie screen of our life. So that when we get the reflection like, oh, damn girl, those don't fit so well. Have you gained some weight? Or that man that says, I'm not really looking for a relationship right now. Or, you start seeing things like, Self magazines, tips for smaller thighs and how to fit into those skinny jeans. It's like, no wonder these things are showing up in your world. You're broadcasting them onto the movie screen of your life. And yet, I don't know about you, but it always feels so much ruder. It feels really nasty when people reflect it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, screw you. But if I got really honest with myself, I'm telling myself these things all the time. So why is it so offensive when we hear it out of somebody else's mouth, but we accept it when we tell ourselves these things? So we want to kill the messenger or the person that's reflecting this back to us, as somehow as if we took that person out of our lives, that the movie would change. When in actuality, these people are just giving us valuable reflections about our thoughts and our belief systems. And if you don't like what you're hearing, if you don't like what you're seeing, it's time to change the movie. But you're responsible for it. So you're responsible for the movie. And we want to just encourage you to take that accountability around what you're projecting onto the movie screen of your life. So, as if this is the movie screen of your life. And if you're getting upset that you're getting reflections that don't appeal to you, before you go killing the messenger, before you get angry with your significant other, before you blame it all on your boss, take a look in the mirror and see what it is you're carrying inside that is creating the reality outside of you. Because when this is healed, one of these reflections could come, but you're not going to be charged by it anymore. Mm-hmm. You're going to let it slide right off of you because you know it's not your truth. So someone could say to you, I'm really not interested in a relationship right now. And you can say, okay, that's cool.
You don't take it personally because it's not about you.
Because it's not about you. So when you heal these things, you realize that, how do I say this? You let it go. You can let a lot more go. And when you know who you are, you can't be offended.
That's some next level kung fu.
Yeah, for sure. All right, here we go again. Okay, off with my with my cartoon.
I think I know which one's next. This one's nice and basic and easy. Your thoughts change your physiological state and impact your emotional state, and they impact your hormones. The fact is, you can change. I think I said that wrong. Let me start again. The fact is that your thoughts can change your physiological and emotional state. Your thoughts can actually change your hormonal state in a negative way. But the good news is that you have the power to change your mood and physiology instantly. And let's just click back on over so I can talk to the ladies directly, because I think we can all relate to my example. So I was trying to imagine, okay, how can I actually really change my state? And then I was thinking, okay, not that long ago, I was exhausted after a long week, and I was totally ready to plant myself in bed and watch Netflix and eat my ice cream. I keep mentioning ice cream because I really like it. And it was just like, Saturday night, I feel moopy, wah wah. And then all of a sudden, I get a call from someone who I love very much. And all of a sudden, I feel really excited. And we go on into a great conversation. And afterwards, I feel like just joyful and excited. And that is a perfect basic example of how your state change can happen in the snap of a finger, just from changing like what you're thinking about. Another great example is, say for example, your girlfriend calls you and she needs some help and support, and you get to speak from your heart and share some of your wisdom, and that connection in itself is like pumping all these great feel-good hormones like oxytocin and serotonin, and leave you feeling uplifted. And I often get those feelings from just sharing like this with you. So yeah, another great way to just maybe find an opportunity to be altruistic and help somebody, and that can be a great way to change your state and give you boundless energy. And finding and tapping into your passion, those are the things that will give you endless like connection to source and light and motivation to keep playing.
But be aware that just like with any of these things, that if you overgive to others without giving to yourself first, that can be a trap too, because everything in moderation.
Stay tuned. That's for next week.
Yeah. There's a lot more to say about that, but actually I think we covered it a little bit in our preview call.
We did.
And it's just something for women to very much monitor. Is this, I see it a lot in mothers. Actually, you probably have seen it in your own mother, that you're going to just self-sacrifice and give so much to your kids, and there's a bit of this martyr inside, and that I have nothing left to spend because I've given everything to my children. And so that's giving with a little bit of a hook and the desire for it to come back to you. So giveth when your cuppeth runneth over.
Yes. When it feels in alignment with where you're really at.
And when you can give generously,
yeah,
and freely. Okay. Back to, all righty. We're almost there. Heading. Okay, so here's this week's integration practice. So you'll be listening to a meditation on what kind of response or pep talk would you give your little girl before something like her very first dance recital? What kind of mindset would you encourage her to have? Now, like, if you were training your little girl, what would you be mirroring, or I would say role modeling for her? What would you want her to know or believe in herself? What's the mindset? And for the external work, all right, we're going to really hold you to this, ladies. Consider really shutting down non-supportive external input and limit or take a break entirely from mental or social junk food. And instead, practice processing your emotions totally and moving energy more effectively. So use that diaphragmatic breathing that we talked about. Opt to dress for and feed yourself on all levels what makes you feel your best, despite trends. So this is you following your own internal guidance here. Monitor that fight or flight response and practice breathing 5 minutes a day. So that's all we want you to start with, 5 minutes a day of that deep diaphragmatic breathing where you're not distracted. Or try another stress-busting technique. Exercise, listen to music, dance, laugh. Practice some of those physiological state changers we talked about. Get more hydration, be more consistent in your sleep. Maybe put some more nutrient-dense foods into your rotation. Okay, so here we are at the end here, and before we conclude, just want to take a moment to have you chime in here about your biggest takeaways from our call tonight and what it is that maybe resonated with you most. So we're going to push a little pause here on talking so that you can chime in. And we're going to, so that we can interface with you a little bit here.
Oh, that's fun to see everyone's little comments,
right? All right, so what did you get most out of our, what are you taking away? What is your biggest takeaway? You know what yours was? Or what got reinforced more?
I just love the part of flow living, and to celebrate the moon time as a sacred time that's kind of magical and bewitching. And to kind of like, I'd like to put it as in tapping into your superpowers during that time, and not look at it as an inconvenience or, you know, a time when, you know, I don't know, when they call it just like, I don't like it when they call it being on the rag, or like, you know, it's just like, that's doesn't glorify like how magical that time can really be. So I like that part.
Let alone the time with your sisters.
Yeah.
To connect.
Cycle syncing is fun. I know some of you out there that were like, yep, we call each other up, having some chocolate right now.
We did this. We were involved in a mastermind group together, and we would talk about how
oh yeah,
right,
yeah.
One of the first things we would say is where you're at in your cycle, because inevitably we would be in a certain mood, or like, I could conquer the world. Are you ovulating? Yeah. I know you're ovulating right now.
It really can be very insightful as to what the filter is on everything that you're experiencing and perceiving.
I mean, it doesn't command you, but there are some uncanny insights to be had. So great. Thank you for chiming in. To enjoy taking care of yourself, a reminder to do 5 minutes of breath work daily because of some new insights about how stress really affects you. These are great. And so we will post this question, and this homework on the Facebook page for you to continue to work with this week and to remind you. And once again, chime in. This is a place to interact. And feel free to bring up your questions or something that you want to talk about a little bit more. It's a place for your support. So thank you for joining us.
It's been lovely. Thank you, ladies.
And we will see you next week. And yeah, just deep appreciation for your devotion to this work and to yourself. So good night.
Good night.